Investigators found 67 credit cards inside their luxury wallets. They're facing 34 combined criminal counts for allegedly staging a home burglary and filing $450,000 in fraudulent insurance claims. And she showed up in Louboutins? I have thoughts, and a lot of them, and I need y'all to hear every last one of them. Welcome back to Crown by Kenzie. I'm Mackenzie, of course. And today we're getting into the Wendy and Eddie Osefo case because what happened at that Carroll County courthouse this afternoon was not just a court date, it was a performance. And I want to talk about exactly what that performance is telling us. Let's get into it. All right. Let me set the scene for anyone who is new to this story. And if you already know the background, stay with me because I have context today that connects everything differently. Wendy Osefo, better known as Dr. Wendy to Real Housewives of Potomac fans, and her husband, Happy Eddie, have been charged with a combined 34 criminal counts. Here's what those charges are. On April 7th, 2024, the Osefos were on vacation in Jamaica. While they were gone, someone allegedly broke into their home in Finksburg, Maryland, in Carroll County, and stole $450,000 worth of designer handbags and jewelry. That is what they told police. They filed claims with not one, not two, but three separate insurance companies. Here's where it all falls apart. Investigators say those items were not stolen. They were returned to stores for refunds before the alleged burglary ever happened before, meaning the items were gone before that crime was even reported. And then separately, a diamond ring that Wendy reported as stolen was spotted on her Instagram after she filed the claim. The Carroll County grand jury saw enough to indict. Both of them were arrested October 9th, both posted $50,000 bond and walked out. The charges: 7 counts of insurance fraud, 8 counts of conspiracy to commit insurance fraud, and 1 count of making a false statement to a police officer. That is 16 counts for Wendy, 18 for Eddie, 34 combined. And all of this, every single bit of it, is alleged. These are charges. They have not been convicted. Everyone is presumed innocent until proven guilty. But what happened in court today and what the evidence trail looks like, I want to talk you through it. Now I want to talk about something that I cannot stop thinking about. When investigators searched the Osefos, they found 67 credit and debit cards. 67 inside 4 luxury wallets, including a Chanel wallet that was on the list of items they reported stolen. Let me ask y'all something. How many credit cards do you have? Most people have 2 or 3, maybe 5, if they're really working their points and rewards. But 67 credit cards and debit cards across 4 wallets? That's not normal personal finance behavior. Now, I'm not a financial expert, but I want to give you 2 possible explanations for 67 cards, and y'all can decide which one makes more sense to you. Option one: this is sophisticated financial management. Multiple cards for multiple purposes: business accounts, personal accounts, rewards, optimizations. I mean, some wealthy people do operate with multiple accounts. That's a real thing. Option two: when you are living beyond your means and you have maxed out one card, you open another and another. And when the credit runs out on those, you open more. 67 cards spread across 4 wallets could be the paper trail of someone using new credit to float old debit, running from one limit to the next. And here's what makes option two feel more credible to me. In December, prosecutors stood in front of a Carroll County judge and said the Osefos have very little money. That is not a vague accusation. That is a prosecutor telling a judge under their professional obligation to the court that this couple is in financial distress. Eddie's attorney pushed back, saying there was no evidence of financial distress. But then the judge ruled in the state's favor and authorized subpoenas for 8 years of the Osefos' personal and business financial records. 8 years. That is not a fiction expedition. That is a judge who looked at the evidence and said, there is enough here to dig. Here's the part of today's story that I think is getting buried under the Louboutin headlines, and it should not be. According to reports, Wendy and Eddie Osefo initially wanted to be tried separately. Two different trials, two different defenses, each one making their own case to the jury. Today, they showed up to court together and agreed to a joint trial. January 25th through 29th, 2027, same courtroom, same jury, same time. Well, what changed? I want to be clear. I don't know what their attorneys discussed. I don't know what conversations happened behind closed doors, but I can tell you what a joint trial versus separate trial means strategically, and then you can think about this for yourself. When you have a separate trials, each defendant can point fingers. One attorney can argue their client had no knowledge of what the other was doing. One can say the other masterminded the whole thing. Separate trials create the possibility of one person being convicted while the other walks or gets a lesser charge because the jury only hears one side of the story without the other person there to respond. A joint trial means they stand or fall together. Same jury hears everything about both of them at the same time. There is no room to throw the other one under the bus when you're sitting right next to each other. So why would you switch from wanting separate trials to agreeing to a joint trial? One possibility. Their attorneys looked at the evidence and decided the best strategy is a unified defense. If they can present a consistent story together, a joint trial might actually be stronger than two separate ones. Another possibility, one of them made a strategic calculation that being next to their spouse is safer than being tried while their spouse is in a different courtroom, potentially saying things that could come back on them. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not making a legal argument here, but I am saying someone who watches how people move and the switch from separate to joint after everything that has come out is a move that I think deserves more attention than it's getting. Let me come back to where we started because this is the part I actually want to talk about. Wendy Osefo showed up to her insurance fraud hearing today in a yellow pantsuit and Christian Louboutin heels. Eddie wore a suit and a Burberry tie, and a Bravo camera crew, roughly a dozen people, was there to film their arrival and departure. Now I want to ask you something. If you were facing 34 criminal counts, if prosecutors had said in open court that you have very little money, if investigators were subpoenaing, subpoenaing 8 years of financial records, what would you wear to court? I'll tell you what I would wear. The most modest, respectful, unremarkable outfit I own. Something that communicated, I understand the gravity of this situation. I am taking this seriously. I am not here to perform because here is what those Louboutins communicate to a jury. And yes, jurors notice these things. Attorneys will tell you that. Showing up to a fraud hearing in designer heels when prosecutors are arguing you staged a burglary to cover financial problems sends a message. It may not be the message you intend, though, but it sends one. Now, maybe this is Bravo's decision. Maybe the production team said show up looking like the cast member you are. Maybe Wendy felt that changing how she presents herself would look like an admission of something. I don't know what the calculation was, but I do know this. The Louboutins, the Burberry tie, the Escalade, the camera crew, all of it together paints a picture. And that picture is the same picture that 67 credit cards and prosecutors saying you have very little money, pay. A gap between what is being shown and what is allegedly real. And that gap is what this whole case is about. Before you go, if you made it in this far, you are already part of the royal community. Hit that subscribe button because this story